this life a wonderful adventure, then in the name of democracy, let us use that power. Let us all unite.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Let's Take 5, the podcast where we take a cinema legend and take 5 of their films to highlight their excellence and range. My name is Austin Luger.
My name is Eric Martindale.
And today this is a big episode because it's our theme song.
It's our theme song, that's right.
This is the Great Dictator, the 1940 Charlie Chaplin film, of which of course he starred, wrote, and directed in. It is about a Jewish barber who is in the war and kind of comes back to see that things are in a pretty much horrible state. Mm-hmm. Chaplin also plays the Hitler-esque character. It's definitely Hitler. There's no way you can not see this as the Nazi Party. And you watch him as a childish madman who just wants to kill all the brunettes, maybe after the Jews or brunettes. He's still going to decide which one he's going to kill off first. This is something different than we've kind of covered so far. I mean, the first three are films where you watch the Tramp, poke fun at the American dream and Manifest Destiny and the class system and the technology boom. This is something where it's not officially the Tramp, although there are a few scenes where he is dressed very similar to the Tramp. I think as a image.
Yeah, I would call the barber.
Yeah,
pretty much the Tramp.
But this is something different. Like this is not a jokey tour through something like that. It isn't Abbott and Costello go to blank. This is actually oftentimes a really upsetting story. Yeah,
that obviously is kind of what separates it, I think, from the rest of the canon. I know Verdoux is going to be after this, but Verdoux is plays at being a dark comedy in ways that I think this and fails in ways that I think this movie kind of succeeds. But it's calling it a dark comedy kind of does it a disservice. It's more like 3 parts comedy, 2 parts drama of 2/5. That's 5, right? Yeah, 3/5 drama. Or shit, 3/5 comedy.
Yes.
Okay, there we go. Because it is very humorous at times. The funniest scenes are Hinkle, which is the Hitler. That's a lot of comedy through that. But and the Jewish barber's funny too. But there's some really upsetting parts where the stormtroopers are coming through and they're going to lynch him at one scene.
It's so interesting because you have the barber, he's in a soldier's outfit for the first part of the film. But when he comes back home, you see him in at the very beginning, a very similar outfit to the Tramp, and then he kind of has different attire on. But that's when it's almost like saying, by the way, the Tramp is likely Jewish. You're now watching him of where he could easily have been in 1940. And so when you have these images of yes, the barber is his own character, but when you see him rope around his neck, this is shocking. This is it's taking one of the most iconic characters in cinema and putting him through a hell that is currently going on right now.
Yeah, even from the beginning, there's war scenes, there's bombs going off. Later, you hear people getting shot. His place of business is set on fire and burned. They have to hide up on the roof. The other Jews have to escape to Ostalage, which is Austria, and all that in the context of a comedy, right? And some of those scenes are, when I first saw the film, I think that's kind of what, because Great Dictator is probably my favorite film of his, and that's kind of what set it apart for me. It's allowed to have these moments where the movie sort of breathes, and it usually hangs on those for a while. There's a point in the movie where, he was kind of a war hero in World War I, and kind of with this General Schultz or whatever, who is now in charge of their block in the Jewish ghetto, and he shows up when he's being lynched and prevents him from being lynched. It's like, hey, do you remember me? And he's had amnesia, which is a plot line in this. He's like, oh yeah, and that's kind of what brings him back and makes him remember. So from that moment on, the Jews are safe for a little while, and then because Hinkle wants a loan from a Jewish man, and when he can't get the loan from a Jewish man, he just decides to kill all the Jews. And there's a point in the movie there, a little split, where the Jewish barber's about to go out on a date, the same girl from Modern Times, Charlie Chaplin's wife at the time,
She's incredible in this.
She's really good. And they're about to go out on a date, and then that's where it shifts. Hinkle comes on the intercom and is like, "Oh yeah, we're now declaring war on all the Jews in Germany and whatnot," and it's pretty dramatic. I mean, they're hiding for their lives. I mean, there's comedy in there, there's comedy bits in there, but the danger is real. I mean,
and it's so interesting because this is my second or third time watching it, third time I think, and it was these small moments that I kept noticing Chaplin doing, like even early on in the film, when the barber comes back to his place and he kind of walks to where he thinks it's like his normal chair and kind of recognizes how empty it's been and there's cobwebs everywhere. But while he's in there, one of the Nazi soldiers paints the word Jew on his window. And he goes out there with a rag and starts to wipe off one of the letters. And one of the soldiers says, "What are you doing?" And Chaplin says, "I don't know." And that got me a lot. Like he just truly doesn't know why what is happening right now. And then that soldier proceeds to push him really hard that he just keeps falling out of the frame.
Right.
That he just keeps getting he just gets pushed aside so much that the camera has to follow him that way. And it's incredible. And this is something. I mean, obviously, this is 1940 when this is coming out. Chaplin is saying those other films are worth the really important discussion. This is not. This is something so big and so terrible that we have to just let head on. And
which is kind of interesting because it's not 1940. No one really knew the depths of the Holocaust quite yet. I mean, we knew about concentration camps. We knew that that Hitler was pursuing like an Aryan dictatorship. But what we didn't know is that there was mass extermination, incineration, gassing them, that type of stuff. And this movie doesn't know that either. And I mean, you can't know that yet. But it goes to definitely the persecution of them. But there's one scene that's really interesting because at one point Chaplin is in a concentration camp in this film. And, I thought that was interesting because we couldn't really have a good idea of what those were like at the time. And I did look that up, like Chaplin's thoughts on that. And he said something to the effect of if I knew what was happening to the Jews then, I would never have made that film. And I'm thinking he may have been particularly referring to the bits that he has in the concentration camp specifically. At least to me, that seems to be it. I mean, I think it's good. I don't think he's saying he would back down from Hitler or anything. I think that's not the parts he's talking about. I think he's talking about specifically the Jewish struggle.
Or remove all comedy?
Yeah, exactly. Trying kind of using comedy and not making light of the situation because I don't think the movie ever does that. I don't think it's exploiting anyone like that. All the characters for the most part are really grounded and real. The Jewish people, except for the Tramp because he's the Tramp. But his struggle's still real too. Yeah. So
and the comedy in this film,
a lot of slapstick.
It's there, but it never felt as the showstoppers of the previous three films. Because aside from maybe the plane sequence at the very beginning,
which is hilarious,
it's awesome. I mean,
they're flying upside down. They don't know it. It's the funniest thing.
They just keep dropping things above them.
He can't understand why his watch is floating in the air, and why when he tries to drink the water, it's spilling up into the air. Hilarious.
Super, and that definitely fits in with the Tramp we've seen. But a lot of other things, I mean, I don't know, the coin and the food kind of thing are really small. And
that seems hilarious too.
It's so good.
But the stakes are really high too.
Stakes are super high, and it's a way where we keep repeating that the Tramp is weirdly never really at fault for these big concept pieces. He does what anyone would and kind of endures them all. This is even more particular because this is a traumatized war hero. This isn't just a guy who is cold in California or whatever. This is something very particular. And
you mean as opposed to the gold rush?
Yeah. It's something very interesting because even that coin scene, which is good, it's just I didn't laugh very much, but this is an incredible film. And I don't laugh very much.
I do laugh at that scene quite a bit. That said, I mean, the joke is that the coin is hidden in the pudding, and whoever has the coin has to die for their country, and some plot that's going to be developed or whatever. So he decides he's going to be the one to pass them all out, and he's weighing each one of them as he's trying to hand them out. And I did think that's pretty pretty funny. I did laugh at that, but I do get what I mean. The stakes are really high. I mean, whoever has that coin is signing the death warrant, right?
It's a different tone than fighting a giant chicken who is actually the Tramp, you know. But also at the very end of the scene when the barber just quickly takes all the coins and pockets them.
Yeah.
That was a nice little moment. But let's talk about Hinkle, Hitler.
Yeah, no, I thought he was hysterical. I'm sorry. I think he's so funny.
He is so funny, but in a way that Chaplin's a genius. Because you never for a second forget that he's horrible.
Yeah, no,
he never is put in a way where you understand his plight.
Oh yeah, you never like him.
You never humanize him.
You never humanize him. That is very correct.
You're going to keep laughing at him, and you're going to laugh often at his cruelty, which is so hard to do because, let's say I mentioned earlier about the brunettes and such. Like he's doing all of this because he's insane, and these are the villains that are scarier often because you can have the three-dimensional chess genius who is 14 steps ahead and he's going to take over our country through that. That is someone like you can reason with, you think?
Yeah,
but
no, this
is the Kim Jong-un, the Hitlers. This is someone who is going to use horrible weapons with no empathy.
Yeah.
And with the classic scene of him just very joyful, he's going to take over the world, where he takes his globe, which ends up being a floating ball.
love that scene so much.
But
it's horrifying.
It's horrifying because you go, oh, he's a child.
Yeah.
He's a child who is always going to stomp your Lego sets. You have to rebuild them.
Yeah.
But he is... And that is a satire of Hitler, first off, happening while it's happening.
Which I always love that stuff. Like, we talk about, like, Casablanca. I love that because it's set during the time.
And this is a take that, like, others replicated, years after it ended, of, like, Hitler as a, fat, greedy child kind of thing. But this is... Because there's strange, serene beauty. And also him floating this globe.
Mm-hmm. So the movie takes the time there to let that marinate.
Yeah.
Like that, it's kind of interesting because to this point, the movie's all kind of been bang, 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 go, 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 go. And then it, like, calls a timeout for him to dance with this globe that he's going to take over the world, and it's this very sort of beautiful thing. And then it ends with it popping.
And he's upset.
Yeah, and he's upset.
And also just because Chaplin is perfect at everything, so many of those were one take. Well, the whole scene was a one take.
Yeah.
But, like, when he, like, picks it up, bops in the air, and then kicks him on his back foot, I'm like, that's the same take?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, Chaplin. How do you keep nailing this?
Yeah, no.
It might have been take 15, but
no,
still.
But every time I watch him, I do say that stuff. Of course he can do that. Of course he can do that. And, one weird thing that we haven't really mentioned in this movie is that he talks in it.
He does, because at this point now, he's saying gibberish in modern times, which, put in that clip at the end of last week's episode, listen to the words even more carefully, it is delightful gibberish.
Well, and he uses gibberish in this movie, too.
It's true.
And one of to me, one of the funniest things about it that he does is this fake, like the way the Sims talk German. Mm-hmm. It's hilarious. It's so fun. Like he's shouting like these things, and it's just he had to rehearse them because he gives a full speech like this. I mean, seriously, it's like 4.5 minutes of him shouting this stuff, and it's entertaining.
I keep forgetting about this that it's gibberish because I just kind of watch and go like, okay, cool, I get it. No subtitles. That kind of means that it's just kind of like hateful rhetoric, and then I listen carefully, like, oh wait, no, he's saying words I know.
Yeah, sauerkraut. Yeah, cheese and crackers. Yeah, like he shouts banana several times because he slips on a thing. He keeps yelling banana about it. And when he refers to the Italians, which is bacteria in this country, and that's what the country's called, bacteria. He calls them a cheese and a ravioli. So, like, yeah, no, it's great. But at the same time, you do see him building, like, the comical stuff of, like, he's building death machines. He's building, like, all this stuff to just exterminate people and take over the world. He makes a pact with, the fake Italians in this movie. He signs a pact to get them remove their troops of order so he can conquer Austerlitz instead.
Well, that scene was, because I adore the Marx Brothers so much. That was, like, the closest to a Marx Brothers scene because we haven't seen Chaplin do really kind of great dialogue-based comedy, and having Hinkle idiotically bargain about, I will be happy to sign the contract once you move your soldiers in the
Yeah.
so you're going to sign it now that we'll move our soldiers? Yes, once we move your soldiers, I will sign the contract. And that being done so well, and the timing, and Hinkle as a child, and someone who's like an actual like general going, I don't know what to do here.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do here. He's not outsmarting me.
And
He's just an asshole.
Yeah, and the prep that goes into making him higher in the room, all that other stuff. Then, of course, he comes in and make him walk the long way towards you. So we'll have him come in this door, and then, of course, he walks right in behind him on the back door and slips him out.
At least they didn't do some sort of, like, absurd masculine handshake. That would have been too over the top.
Yeah. Okay. But, no, it is.
I did one.
Yeah, no, I mean, people... That's always been kind of like a thing that... it obviously can't be ignored. There's a lot of parallels drawn to that type of stuff, to stuff going on in the world today. But I mean that's been happening for a long time. I mean, I don't remember the last president that wasn't compared to Hitler, which to me is always just ridiculous and, if not dangerous, hyperbole.
Well, damn, it's the actual phrase. You can't play the trump card like that.
Yeah, exactly.
There are other
horrible people to use. I think that
I think you can definitely equate with fascism, but
and there's certain aspects of this type of satire that I think could apply to politicians today, in particular Donald Trump. If you want to use it, like I need to be higher in the room, I need to have all that stuff. But the direct comparisons to Adolf Hitler always, to me, come off a little hyperbolic, if not even a little offensive.
Well, because this is easily one of the top 5 worst people of all time,
and everyone knows that.
Yeah,
and everyone agrees on that.
And you also have people who were alive when he were alive.
Sure,
so it's no matter
it's a
what.
little emotionally manipulative, is what I'm saying, because everyone knows who he is, and everyone. I don't care what side of the aisle you're on, unless you're crazy,
right?
He's a villain,
right?
So,
but the thing about Hitler and Hinkle is that definitely does not apply to Trump is the effective cruelty.
Yeah.
It's the idea not only that I'm going to have hateful rhetoric, I'm going to do something about it that is just going to, and be fully aware too. It's not like, I didn't know this was happening. Hinkle does.
Oh yeah,
and Hinkle is really glad about it.
Mm-hmm.
It isn't ignorance. It is a really mean child,
right?
And that's what we're getting at in this film. And man, there's a moment when you just have him maniacally laugh, and sometimes that's just a cliche of a moment. But to see it as you recognize the face of the Tramp a little bit. Honestly, he has aged a bit. It's been 5 years since
definitely.
And you can see more wrinkles on his face, but you do see the Tramp, and you see the Tramp and the barber. And there are moments when you see the Tramp and Hinkle, and then you kind of get scared about it. First of all, you go oh my god. It's almost like if you watched Tom Hanks be a serial killer in a movie. You're like, no.
Yeah.
That's my son and my dad. It gets scary. And
which is ironic because Chaplin plays a serial killer in the next movie we
spoiler.
cover.
Premise.
Premise, yeah.
Because, it's Verdoux is a dark story, but Chaplin could have been a really scary villain. I
think so
the
too.
Night of the Hunter, kind of oh boy, because he when he wants to, he makes Hinkle.
There's a couple
not
scenes.
fun
There are a couple scenes where Hinkle is not funny. Yeah, I agree. There's one particular where he's shouting German gibberish, and he doesn't use any of the jokes like this sauerkraut and a cheese and cracker. He's not saying that. He's shouting gibberish, but he's doing it super violently and angrily and growling, and it cuts it. It's showing just his face, shouting at the camera. And quite honestly, he looks a lot like Hitler. I mean, a lot like Hitler.
Well, it's this mustache.
Well,
right?
the mustache,
yeah.
right,
yeah.
too. I mean, obviously he did before anyway because of the mustache, but seeing him, it's just interesting because people say Charlie Chaplin looks like Hitler. Charlie Chaplin was famous before Hitler was famous, but because of the Hitler mustache, we refer to it as a Hitler mustache, not a Charlie Chaplin mustache.
I was once at a comedy club, and there was a hack comedian, because they had a silhouette of Chaplin behind by the brick wall, And he goes, "A nice place you got here. Enjoy your giant Hitler face behind me the whole time." It was fine. I get the hack joke that I'm pretty sure the employees of that club have heard 10,000 times. But, yeah, it is. And I love the Criterion
Well, and it didn't
cover.
help, too. Sorry, yeah, it didn't help at the time. Like, people... Part of why this movie flopped, too, is because Chaplin was seen as a socialist and
Oh, sure.
you know, an anti-American figure.
Right.
So
Yeah,
it didn't help he looked like Hitler.
It didn't help me look at Hitler. He's this European guy who's over in America.
Exactly, making a lot of money.
And, I'm so ignorant. Pearl Harbor's 41, right?
Pearl Harbor's 41, so it's after this
So
movie
this is,
came
I
out.
mean, like, so there was a very little understanding of history. Like, there are way more experts out there, but, like, this time there are a lot of debates in America, right? About, like, do we help our allies? Do we go into war?
We were just coming out of
war,
depression, and, you know, a big
and it's like,
part of...
what do we do? So now we have a film of this guy who's now lecturing us. He's no longer making cartoons.
And I think the fact that he was a rich person, too, did not help. I'm sorry, when I hear rich people preaching about socialism, I always do that kind of with an air of like, give me, come on,
yeah.
You know, capitalism has served you fine. That said, I mean, this movie is not about any of those things.
It's actually really not political.
It's not. I would say Modern Times is more political.
Very much more political. This is has a very strong anti-Hitler vibe,
Yeah.
which is hard to argue.
Which we're fine with.
Yeah, we're okay.
all support
we're
that.
okay. This podcast endorses that viewpoint.
Yeah, no. So the movie has these weird ebbs and flows, these effective ebbs and flows between comedy and drama, but in particular, the ending. So there's about the final 10 minutes here are pretty intense.
Yeah.
I would say so. Hitler Hinkel's due to speak in front of the troops before they invade Austria or Austerlitz, and this is the last comedy beat in the movie. The Hitler character is out hunting ducks. He hears a duck quack. He pokes up the gun in the air, shoots and fires, falls out of the boat. Well, at this point, the Tramp has escaped from the concentration camp with Schultz, the general from earlier in the film. So the people round him up thinking he's the escaped Jewish barber. And because the Tramp's in disguise, they think he's Hinkle. It's this really intense moment where they're walking through the gate. It's like, just act normal, act normal, act normal. Like, we can get through this gate, and they won't know. We got the uniforms on. And then everyone starts mistaking him for Hinkle. And he gets put up to make this speech, and before he's put up to make it, he's like, I can't talk, I can't speak in front of all these people. And then Schultz leans over to him and says, you have to talk, or we're dead. Like, they're going to figure this out if you don't talk. And then he's forced to give a speech.
Which, you know, it's a little silly since you hear all the speech in the theme song, but we're definitely playing the entirety of the speech after this episode. That's going to be the clip, because what happens in this speech, beyond it being absolutely incredibly written, is perhaps Chaplin's finest moment as an actor. And it's always kind of that cheap thing of like, oh, it's when the comedian does drama for one time. This is a major exception to that, because there's desperation. This isn't a super polished presidential speech. This is a moment of desperation. This is a moment of...
It's more rustic than that.
If I don't know how to connect you, but if I keep talking, I think I might. And I need to see what's important. And there's a brilliance in the idea of having Chaplin play both people, because of this. It's not just a thematic thing, since he is literally very similar looking to Hinkle. This is a moment when he's essentially given power over an army. Mm-hmm. He could say, you know, lay down your weapons, we're just going to do this. And he could just take over power. Because, I mean, power can corrupt. And instead, he
doesn't want that.
He doesn't want this. He just describes the world he wants to live in. And it's so powerful. And Chaplin's face watching it is so still at the beginning, because he's just in shock. I don't know how you can do multiple takes of this. This is like a moment of... He doesn't know what to say. He doesn't know how long he's going to speak. He might die mid-word. Like, these are the only words that come in my head, and I have to say them aloud.
Yeah.
And that is an acting that is chills.
Yeah. I mean, you may have seen the speech in other forms of media. It's popular outside the film. I mean, it's exactly what you said. He's given basically the power of the entire German, or in this, I think Temeria is what they're called, I'm not sure. Anyway, the German army, and his first instinct is to say, I don't want to be an emperor. That's the first thing out of his mouth. There's also, obviously, and I think it's understated, which is shocking because you have a movie where the Chaplin's playing both parts, but there's an understated sort of... He's mistaken. A Jewish barber is mistaken for the leader of the army.
Oh, absolutely. That is. Oh, yeah.
I mean, so
we're the same people. Yeah.
Exactly. So these people that he's persecuting, this Jewish barber that looks exactly like Hitler, everyone is now is given all the power because he looks like him, and these people are essentially being round up and persecuted because they look a certain way.
That's it.
Which happens to be exactly
like him.
Yeah. So, or they look a certain way. I mean, other things too, but that being one of them. And I guess I should say they don't look a certain way. So yeah, I mean, no, it's incredible. He gives this speech, and they let him get out the words, and then the army cheers afterwards. And there's a humanitarian message there, but the way it ends, because it cuts to the girl who had fled, the girl that the barber had been with earlier, had fled in Austria. She's crying on the ground, and then she hears his voice on the radio, and then he literally says her name and says the clouds are parting, And it ends on this moment of her looking into the clouds, and it ends surprisingly open-ended, which it's a great ending. Like, aside from the speech is wonderful. Obviously, it's one of the best monologues in history of film, if not the best. Mm-hmm. But then it ends really open-ended, which is the only way it could have ended because it was made during the war, I guess. It's an interesting ending. It's not necessarily a good ending. It's more of an ambiguous ending.
Well, it's a speech about what you want for tomorrow, and what you want for tomorrow for the German people and for the people of the world. So you end on a character who is maybe the best female character we've seen so far. I think she's fantastic. Yeah. She's so awesome and funny and cartoonishly violent. But you have her in this moment, and you see a better tomorrow. This is what you're hoping for. You're hoping for the people like her to have a tomorrow where you feel safe and warm.
It's just odd. That's it. There's not a joke for the last 15 minutes of this movie.
It's not a joke in that monologue.
There's not it's not funny at all. And
but the way he just when he gets into the monologue, then he's almost shaking about how important this needs to be to get out.
And it starts like you said as timid and him saying, I don't want to be an emperor, and it goes from that to then it arcs into him, and he's speaking directly at the camera at that point, and then it pivots into him shouting at the troops from the left and the right, and then to everybody. And I don't mean politically the left and right, I mean literally the left and the right. And he's shouting up, and then it turns into something that was very, very timid and meek. And the whole point being to unite under democracy, unite for the people. Don't unite for dictators. Do not do this. Dictators will die, but the human spirit will live on and endure long after these people are gone. And we're going to be stuck holding the bag for these choices that we make now. And it's really, it's incredibly, first of all, it's incredibly written. It's an amazing written piece.
Not a word that's wrong in a 3-minute speech.
Right. Yeah. And it's universally appealing too. And then it's, of course, sublimely acted, which is, again, of course it is, Charlie Chaplin, in a role where he's speaking to. We're talking about someone who's famous for being a silent film star who delivers one of the best spoken monologues in the history of film. That means something.
It means a lot.
About how talented this individual really truly was. It's my favorite of the five that we'll cover. I know we got Verdoux after this. But with respect to modern times and City Lights, this being close to that second.
This is right currently a barely second.
Barely second because you're City Lights guy. And City Lights is incredible too.
But this is something uniquely special, and I don't think. It's talked about a lot when the grace of Chaplin, but I think it should be really considered the great of World War II films. I mean, like, I think like this should be seen by like it gets the pathos that you get when you watch Band of Brothers.
This is the second of such movies we watched for Schindler's List. I mean, Schindler's List went more into the Holocaust specifically, but that's knowledge that was not acquired. But the films are similar in that regard, but or in that specific regard. You were going to say something earlier. I cut you off. You were going to talk about the Criterion cover.
Oh, it's just this. I mean, they did such a great job for some of the Chaplin things, but it's this beautiful image where you have a black rectangle in the middle, and then if you look at it one way, it's the Jewish barber. If you turn it upside down, it's Henkel. Mm-hmm. It's the same rectangle. It's just very like.
It's a great cover.
This mustache matches two people in history. Yeah. It's Chaplin and Hitler.
I know, and I love how that's exactly what Criterion's doing.
Apparently, Hitler loved this film. You know that?
I did not know that.
Apparently, he saw it and thought it was great. Take that you will.
How?
I know. I know.
that just adds more to the madness.
Yeah. I think he thought that, like, man, Henkel's doing a great job. Apparently, Hitler liked this film. That's what I've heard.
That's crazy.
That's insane.
I hate ending on that note. Hey, I was gonna say it's the only film where the tramp has like a real job. That's
for the whole movie.
Yeah, for the whole movie. That's maybe the one thing that sets, I guess, him apart from the tramp. It's a Jewish barber.
Yeah.
Is a proprietor and not dirt
the building did this.
In his suit, it's this classic Chaplin suit, but it is a little nicer. It's obviously the biggest wreck in Gold Rush, I think, because he doesn't even have shoes on.
Yeah,
but
and I happen to know we didn't talk enough about the romantic lead. I loved this silly scene of he wants to like practice his barber skills again and wants to like make her look pretty because she hasn't like.
She's saying we're attracted to each other because we're both absent-minded.
Yeah, and he's shaving her. Because like he doesn't talk. He's just kind of nodding like, "Oh no, you're absent-minded. I'm not. I'm a really good barber."
Why he's
shaving cream
on her face, and then he does that silly me Chaplin laugh.
Oh yeah, And she doesn't criticize him. She just kind of says like, "I wonder why women don't get whiskers." And he goes like, "It's a weird question." Oh shit.
That is good.
That's a lovely scene. But
we'll be back for Monsieur Verdoux
next week. But until then, we'd love to hear your thoughts on The Great Dictator. Go over to thearttomorrow.com. You can leave a comment there. While you're there, check out the other podcasts. Yesterday's podcast was also about World War II, but even sadder because we covered the film Grave of the Fireflies. So, Japanese firebombing animated film. Children dying. Oh, God, it's been a rough weekend of viewing films. But also, we have reviewed the very fun British miniseries Dead Set, which is basically Black Mirror Episode 0. Good stuff there. I forget what else we covered. But that's all happening. And we took a week off last week, which means the episode of Verdoux that we covered next week may have that information again about what was on the Immortals. So apologies. But also, Adam Absurdum will be back very soon with an episode about Westworld, which I'm looking forward to. And where can we find you, Eric?
Constant Diversion's the YouTube channel. Hasn't been updated in a while, but it shall be.
But they're all good library episodes. You can.
Hang your hat on.
I got a buddy of mine, Pedro from the Immortals, who's just now on Uncharted 4. When he finishes, I'm going to have him watch your Uncharted video.
Oh, good. Oh, well.
He has some pretty deep thoughts. He texted me the other day saying that there are a lot of similarities between Uncharted 4 and Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. He found them. He found there's some connections that there might just be.
You mean the connection between Uncharted and Indiana Jones? No shit.
He gave me a whole 3 examples because I think this is the thing.
That's funny. Does he listen to the podcast?
To which one?
This one? Yeah.
I think you've seen the film.
Okay.
So,
I was going to say. Yeah, I was going to say. Pedro, of course.
Yeah. But back next week for Monsieur Verdoux. We'll have a wrap-up coming up, and then we'll have a new person. But I'm Austin Ligger.
I'm Eric Martindale.
Catch you next time.
Bye-bye.
I'm sorry, but I don't want to be an emperor. That's not my business. I don't want to rule or conquer anyone. I should like to help everyone if possible. Jew, Gentile, black man, white. We all want to help one another. Human beings are like that. We want to live by each other's happiness, not by each other's misery. We don't want to hate and despise one another. In this world, there's room for everyone, and the good earth is rich and can provide for everyone. The way of life can be free and beautiful, but we have lost the way. Greed has poisoned men's souls, has barricaded the world with hate, has goose-stepped us into misery and bloodshed. We have developed speed, but we have shut ourselves in. Machinery that gives abundance has left us in want. Our knowledge has made us cynical, our cleverness hard and unkind. We think too much and feel too little. More than machinery, we need humanity. More than cleverness, we need kindness and gentleness. Without these qualities, life will be violent, and all will be lost. The aeroplane and the radio have brought us closer together. The very nature of these inventions cries out for the goodness in men, cries out for universal brotherhood, for the unity of us all. Even now, my voice is reaching millions throughout the world, millions of despairing men, women, and little children, victims of a system that makes men torture and imprison innocent people. To those who can hear me, I say, do not despair. The misery that is now upon us is but the passing of greed, the bitterness of men who fear the way of human progress. The hate of men will pass, and dictators die, and the power they took from the people will return to the people. And so long as men die, liberty will never perish. Soldiers, don't give yourselves to brutes, men who despise you, enslave you, who regiment your lives, tell you what to do, what to think, and what to feel, who drill you, diet you, treat you like cattle, use you as cannon fodder. Don't give yourselves to these unnatural men with machine minds and machine hearts. You are not machines. You are not cattle. You are men. You have the love of humanity in your hearts. You don't hate. Only the unloved hate. The unloved and the unnatural. Soldiers, don't fight for slavery. Fight for liberty. In the 17th chapter of St. Luke it is written, the kingdom of God is within man. Not one man nor a group of men, but in all men, in you. You, the people, have the power. The power to create machines. The power to create happiness. You, the people, have the power to make this life free and beautiful. To make this life a wonderful adventure. Then in the name of democracy, let us use that power. Let us all unite. Let us fight for a new world. A decent world. That will give men a chance to work, that will give youth a future and old age a security. By the promise of these things, brutes have risen to power, but they lie. They do not fulfill that promise. They never will. Dictators free themselves, but they enslave the people. Now let us fight to fulfill that promise. Let us fight to free the world, to do away with national barriers, to do away with greed, with hate and intolerance. Let us fight for a world of reason. A world where science and progress will lead to all men's happiness. Soldiers, in the name of democracy, let us all unite!